What's going on, guys? Hawks21 here, back with another Splinterlands video. So I got a fun one for you today. I am going to rank all of these Splinterlands abilities into tiers and sort of give my personal thoughts and opinions on all of them. This was inspired by version 1. He's an up-and-coming Splinterlands streamer just like myself, and I watched his video the other day doing the same exact thing. It was hilarious. I thought he offered a lot of good insight. And I wanted to do my own. I disagree with him on some, so we'll have different opinions, and you should 100% go and watch both. And yeah, go check out version 1. I think he's should have way more subscribers than he does right now. He's on Twitter as well. Really like his stuff. All right, let's get into it. So we have Elite, which is like everyone knows this ability is Elite. Any monster who has it is borderline OP, no questions asked. Underrated is people generally accept that this is good, but I think it's better than good. And, people are underrating it, and eventually people figure out how good this actually is. But it's not quite overpowered. Good is just like, this ability is good. Everyone agrees with it. It's a very useful ability, but it's not like game breaking or anything like that. Meh is just, it's kind of situational, but the situation pops up a decent amount. Combined with other abilities, maybe it's really good. Or, maybe it takes too much RNG or something like that. Bad is not a lot of use cases. Very, very niche. Something you don't use that often. A monster with it, this ability isn't going to make you get a monster, right? And then trash is unusable. So like waste of an ability, no point in it being in the game. And we're actually going to start right away with 2 trash abilities. Cripple, trash. So basically my understanding of Cripple is a very complicated thing to understand in my opinion. Because it's supposed to reduce 1 health, right? Every time you hit it. But it doesn't actually reduce a health. It reduces a part of the max HP. So it really only affects the monsters when there's a healing situation. Unless I'm not thinking of other use cases. But if there's no healing situation, Cripple doesn't matter. So if a monster has 10 health and you hit a monster for 3 with Cripple, it doesn't go down to 6, right? It doesn't lose a health. The top line just then goes from 10 to 9. But if there's a heal, that doesn't matter. You've already done damage to this monster. So it's super and Bulldog has walked through explanations before of how this ability is actually a negative at times. I don't remember his exact explanation, but you can go back and find it. But yeah, trash ability. I never, if the next level for a monster is Cripple, and I don't care about anything beyond it, I will never level that monster up. Doesn't matter. Death Blow, trash. In theory, this part of it is probably bad, but I think it's a super overrated ability. What it does is it doubles the attack every time if your opponent's monster is the only one remaining, right? But usually in that case, you're already going to win the match. So it matters for last stand, sure. But kind of, not really. There are ways around it. And it's an ability that's designed to be useful in a situation where you're already winning. So for that reason, I think it's trash. Demoralize, I'm going to put in meh. You'll see a reason why when we get to Inspire. Actually, I'll talk about it now, actually. Where's Inspire? Inspire, good. So the reason why these are separate is because any ability where you're nerfing something, and I'm going to contradict myself eventually when we get to silence, but any ability where you're nerfing something, it requires you to be right? So if I play, and there are times, if it's a melee only, or like a super sneak or something, more likely melee is coming, and then, this becomes more useful. But in a general sort of rule set where it's not obvious that melee is going to be played, you have to guess right. Like you have to hope that your opponent plays melee, and if they don't, this is just a wasted ability. Inspire, on the other hand, you plan for this. So if you want to run, 2 Inspires, you can set up some opportunity, some sneak, a bunch of melee attackers to take advantage of this, some reach monsters. So that's why Inspire goes above Demoralize. You can plan for this. You have to be a little lucky, to hit this one right. Dispel is meh. I'm going to put it behind Demoralize. I'm going to rank these within the tier 2. I think Cripples might be the worst ability. We'll see. But Dispel is meh. Again, it's nothing I ever plan for. It's not bad because it certainly is useful, right? Specifically, like if you have a magic attacker with Dispel and, the other team has some protects, you hit underneath the shield and it gets rid of the shield as well. So it can like compound some damage. It gets rid of speed boosts, it gets rid of, Inspires. It's pretty useful, but again, it's hard to plan for, so it's meh. Divine Shield is good, specifically on lower mana monsters. But just in general, just like soaking up a hit is a good thing. In a lot of times in low mana games too, just think of Lorna Shine and how big of a difference that makes. Divine Shield's definitely good. Dodge is underrated. Yeah, dodge is underrated. It's not elite, but there's no way to really counter dodge, which would, in the normal miss settings. Obviously, Magic doesn't miss even with dodge unless they have phase, which we'll get to later. Wherein flying can be countered with other flying monsters or by snare, dodge cannot be. So I think dodge is I think it gets looped in with the other, evasive ratings or abilities. Sorry. But I think dodge is underrated. Double Strike is our first elite. I mean, everyone knows this. A lot of the Double Strike monsters are super OP. I'm really excited for the Carnage Titan, which is going to be our first reach Double Strike monster. Yeah, I don't need to say much about Double Strike. Enrage, I'm going to say is good. Yeah, Enrage is just good. There's not much... I like the speed though. I'm going to put Rage in underrated. It's not elite, but the speed boost that you get on top of sort of like the melee increases, I'm more excited about the speed boost that the monsters get. And I think you can utilize Enrage in really interesting and creative ways. For example, I'm trying to get the Gorglodon with Enrage at level 5. And I'm super excited to use him in poison rule sets. He has huge amounts of HP, so he can take sort of some poison damage, and from that reach position, he'll immediately get enraged, and he'll be hitting for like 8. So I think there's some interesting things you can do in range. Flying is good. Again, anything evasive I like. I'm going to put it here, but it can be countered, which is why it goes below dodge with flying monsters or snare. Force Field is bad. And the reason is because you have to it's very hard to plan. When it works, it's great, right? But it's not something you can really be like, oh, I know my opponent's going to play a bunch of 5+ attack monsters. Maybe you can look at the previous matches and, figure out times where he's going to. But it's another situation where you have to guess. And you can just get destroyed with 4 attack monsters. It's interesting in everyone gets enraged rule sets because the attacks are generally higher from melee monsters. There's a use case there, but for me it's just too niche for now. Affliction, I think, is underrated. I think I might be a little biased just from Dr. Blight, but healing, which we will get to in a little bit, to me is super OP. So being able to counter that with Affliction, I think actually it's going to go above Enrage. I think Affliction's great. Giant Killer, for now, is bad, but I think eventually it's going to become meh as we get more and more heavy monsters. And the reason why it's bad is because usually you're only going to see 1, maybe 2 10+ monsters per match. That's even in a 99 mana game, right? There's just not that many of them yet, and there's not that many 99 mana games. And they're changing it, right? So now the max non-99 mana game is 60, So, the average game mana is going higher. But still, it's only going to be useful once or twice a game, and for that reason, it is bad. Having is elite. I mean, there's a reason why it's only on one monster. They put it on a monster that's really slow and doesn't do a lot of damage. But the ability itself is insane. Absolutely insane. Headwinds goes in meh. For the same reason as Demoralize. And that's because you have to plan for it, right? You can get unlucky, and it's not something you can fully control. When it works, it's great, but it's not always going to work, so that's why it's meh. Healing is elite. Yeah, it's going to go above having. No, it's not. Healing is elite. I don't really need to explain why healing is elite. It's part of the reason why Affliction to me is underrated, but being able to heal yourself is an awesome ability, and it helps you win so many matches. Immunity, underrated. I've come to love immunity as more people have figured out Affliction, and putting an immunity monster up front, knowing when the opponent's going to play Dr. Blight and making Dr. Blight basically useless, has been a strategy I've enjoyed a lot. So immunity, underrated. Knockout, trash. Above cripple though. Cripples might be the worst. The reason why knockout is trash is for a couple reasons. It's fully reliant on another ability, which is stun. And not only is it reliant on another ability, it's reliant on, like, a bunch of other things have to happen. So stun itself is a 50% chance. So you have to hit that 50% chance, right? Also, your stun has to be faster than the knockout. And there can't be any cleanses in between. So 50% chance of stun. The knockout has to come after. And then also, you might hit a knockout attack. So like, let's say your monster does 4 damage and knockout, it'll do 8. If it's a melee attack and your opponent has 1 shield after it gets hit with whatever stun, that 8 attack is just going to go into 1 shield. So to me, there's too many things that need to happen for this ability to be utilized. I think it's a little different in the knockout rule set. Then you bring a bunch of stunners because anyone who hits after a stunner is going to do double damage. But a monster with it on its own, I think it's trash. Last Stand. I'm going to put it at the top of good. It's not underrated because people know what it is, but it's not elite. And outside of, Llama, which your last monster is going to get Last Stand, the reason why it's only good and not elite is because you have to plan for it, right? So like if a sneak attack comes and you have a singular Last Stand monster there, then, you might be in some trouble. And you won't get to utilize this, insane ability. The ability itself is insane, but the planning that needs to go around it, obviously. So I've had some success. The biggest Last Stand monster I use is Efreet Elder. I love him with the phase and gold. He's in the 3 attack. He ends up being super fast. When I use him with Kitty, he gets healed. So, in like no sneak rule sets or stuff like that, he's great to toss in the back. But other than that, it's kind of hard to plan around using him. Yeah, so it's good, but it requires some planning. Life Leech is it meh or good? I might change this, but I'm going to put it at top of meh. And the reason being, it can be countered with Return Fire or Magic Reflect. And there's very specific use cases in which it's great, but a lot of the monsters are low health. And if it's a melee monster and it hits shield, you don't get it, or if it hits void armor, you don't get it. So it requires some planning. It can be very, very powerful, but it's just meh. Magic Reflect is bottom of good. And that has to do, and you'll see where I put Return Fire as well, and I'll do that one next, actually. I'll talk about them both. Return Fire is meh. Magic Reflect is higher than Return Fire because, I'm going to put it actually here. I like Life Leech more than Return Fire. Because Magic is so OP still. So any sort of type of counter to Magic is going to be rated higher than return fire. I don't love archery just because, again, most of them can't attack in the first position. There's just not a lot of strategies I use that involve archery, but tons of people use magic. Having some magic counters just going to make it better. Amplify, this one's tricky. I'm going to put this in underrated. The bot is going to be the last one in underrated. It probably belongs low good, but I think people think this is a trash ability, and I'm starting to find some success in it, mainly with utilizing thorns when I know like sneak attacks or melees are coming. I've picked up some more thorn monsters like Onyx Sentinel. I use the Cursed Windiku a bunch because the Death Squad has that 2 mana Amplify Archer. I'm forgetting the name. Yeah, it's a Chaos Legion epic, 2 mana Archer, which has Amplify. So using the Thorns with Onyx Sentinel and Cursed Windiku is something I've really enjoyed and started to use a lot. So I think this is going to be an underrated one. Opportunity is good. I'm going to put it above Last Stand. I don't think anyone's going to have any qualms with Opportunity being at the top of good. Yeah, nothing really more to say. Oppress is meh. It can be useful, like specifically against Lord Arianth, Onyx Sentinel, Alamo Cambio if you can hit them. But again, it's a situation where you need to get a little bit lucky, and it requires some advanced planning. I haven't really utilized it, so I just think it's meh. Phase is elite. I think so highly of Phase for some of the reasons why I talked about a Magic Reflect. Magic is so OP, and a lot of Magic monsters are slow. And in general, I'm actually going to put it above. I'm switching that again. I'm putting Phase second, actually. People don't plan for their Magic attacks to miss yet, because Phase was just recently introduced, not that long ago. So, people are worried about their other types of attacks missing, but they're not worried about their Magic attacks missing. So I found a good Phase monster can completely change a game and catch teams totally off guard who are just running their Magic spam. I use the Alamo Cambio, the Jin Oshanis in silver. I use a ton for my new silver account. I think this is an elite ability that catches people incredibly off guard. Piercing is top of good. I'm going to put it below Last Stand still. But Piercing is good. I don't know if I have anything else to say about that. Just, shields are really powerful. So, if you can go through the shields as if they're not even there, that's awesome. Poison is bottom of good. It requires some RNG and similar reasons for stun. I'm not going to touch stun yet. Poison's good because once you do hit it, it's an ongoing thing that if they don't have a cleanse, they have to deal with the entire game. So Poison is good, despite the RNG. Protect is good, below Poison. Shields are great. There's not a lot to say there. Yeah. Reach is meh. I'm going to put it above. Just allowing another melee attacker to do, when you want to do some sort of melee play, to attack from the back line is powerful. It's nothing crazy. Recharge. Okay. Most people put this in trash, but I'm not. I'm actually going to put it at the top of bad. And that's because I'm finding some more use cases for it. 2 in particular. There's 2 monster cards, I think, in particular. One is I keep forgetting these guys' names. I'm actually going to pull up. So one is on the... sorry. I wasn't expecting to do this. Where is... Oh, it's gameplay, sorry. Abilities. There we go. Oh, first let me find that Amplify monster I was talking about, since I'm doing this now. The Weirding Warrior, this guy. You can see the Amplify. Okay. So now I was talking about Recharge. There it is. The Temporal Master is one. I can't see his full stats. Gotta pull it up. Here we go. Once he gets the 2 attack, he is 3 mana, right? Yeah, he is 3 mana, so he gets 2 attack. He's going to be doing 6 damage every other turn. I think for a support card, that is amazing. I think originally we were thinking like these big guys here were going to be doing like insane amounts of damage with the recharge ability, and for a variety of reasons, it just hasn't worked out that well. It's like a very niche thing. But I think as a support ability in a low mana card, recharge is very viable. Because I'm not setting up my lineup around Temporal Master or the Insidious Warlock, but they're going to be doing tons of damage for not that much mana cost. So if I like have a lineup that's all about survivability, and I can stick this guy in there without using a ton of mana in like a mid-mana game, and he's just doing 6 damage every other turn, that's amazing. So I think recharge is, we're going to rethink recharge, and it's going to be more of a support characteristic than it is like, you know, main tank doing tons of damage, main damage dealer, you know, 8, 11, 8 mana type of ability, and more of a support one. So, I mean, it's still bad for sure, but it's not trash and it's top of bad. I will stand by that. Redemption is meh. I know there's the whole meta around it in Death with the weakening, but yeah. And it's great too when you're going against Divine Shield because it gets rid of everyone's Divine Shield, but the 1 damage, anyone has shield, doesn't do anything. It's just meh. Armor Repair is meh. There's going to be a lot of meh and good. It's going to be like a normal distribution, which is good. It's great when it works. It requires some planning. You know, using armor with Protect is great. Yeah, it's good. It's meh. Sorry, it's not good. It's meh. Backfire is underrated. I love Backfire, and I've been planning more and more of my teams around it. I love anything to do with speed, so when I got this Backfire ability, I immediately fell in love. I probably overrate this, which is why I have it in underrated, but I'm putting it there, and I don't care what you guys think. Resurrect is... I'm doing it. I'm putting it in bad. A lot of times your monsters, it comes back with 1 health. So if you have some heals set up right after it dies, it can work out really nicely sometimes in your favor. But a lot of times your monster gets resurrected and then gets hit with a magic attack and it's just done. So again, it's an extra turn that it gets, sure. But it's not like it's, you know, resurrected with full health. It's a lot of times in a really vulnerable state. And then sometimes you don't even get to resurrect the monster you thought you were going to resurrect. I mean, how many times have you brought a resurrect and then an opportunity monster comes and, you know, it works better sometimes. You can set it up with a taunt, right? Like the shield bearer with a couple resurrects is a really great strategy. But in general, you know, a lot of times you're resurrecting a monster you didn't even want to resurrect because they brought blast or, you know, they brought sneak and you weren't expecting sneak. So yeah, I think it's a bad ability. Retaliate is good. Bottom of good. Again, it requires some RNG below poison. It requires some RNG in terms of 50-50 if it's going to work or not. But, you know, it can be really powerful, especially if you're expecting sneak or stuff like that. So, Retaliate's good. Rust is top of meh. It's the best meh. Removing shield is awesome. But again, it's one of those things where if your opponent doesn't bring shield, I'm gonna move it to bottom of good because shield is just so powerful if you're not running magic. You know, it's so many options for you to combine it if you know that there's not going to have shield. Just like, you know, if you're going against a Kelia team and you want to run a bunch of opportunity, getting rid of their shield that Kelia is going to provide can make a huge difference. So now that there's a bunch of plus shield summoners and a new one in Chaos Legion, I'm going to put Rust at the bottom of good. Scattershot trash. It's going to go above knockout though. You know, outside of it being combined with Blast and the Chaos Dragon, I don't use any Scattershot monsters. If I can't plan where my attacks are going, I don't have interest in using that monster, basically, is what it comes down to. Scavenge is underrated. specifically if you can stack some multiple scavenge monsters and they're just regenerating health in the back. There's just so many use cases for scavenge. And again, I am obsessed with Dr. Blight. He's my, I don't know if I'm going to call him my favorite card in the game, but he's definitely top 3 or 5. And I just love the scavenge ability. There's so, especially in low mana matches, you know, getting a few low scavenge monsters in there is fantastic. Underrated. Shatter is trash. Reason being, a lot of times with a shatter monster, you're hitting the monster, doing away with a bunch of their shields with the attack, and then you're getting rid of, one additional shield, which again has its benefits, but I think shatter could be just so much better. Next we have shield. Shield is going to go into meh. Just because again, it's something, if you know melee is coming, it works really well. But you know, if you get hit with magic, actually no, I'm going to put it at bottom of good because of the fact that it's melee and archery. So it's, you know, 66% of the potential attacks that are coming in. I'm actually going to put it above that. I'm going to put it midway through good. In my brain, I'm convincing myself on how good shield is right now. I hate running up against shield monsters. So middle of good. Silence is going to be good. I talked about this before with the anything that damages magic attack or eliminates magic attack is great. Again, it requires the luck like these guys, but again, when it has to do with magic attack, it's automatically going to make it a little better. Slow is elite. Anytime you can manipulate speed in this game, while I'm here, where is swiftness? Swiftness, elite. Swiftness goes above slow because, again, this you're manipulating your opponent, this one you're manipulating you. So if you can manipulate yourself, you can plan around it. It's always better. But anytime, speed to me is king in this game, as you can see, you know, bang, bang, bang. So yeah, manipulating speed to me will always be elite. Blast, elite. I don't really need to say why. I think people would agree. Snare is bad. Bottom of bad. Borderline trash, but when it works well with flyers. Just so niche. It's, you know, lining up your snare monster to hit a flyer is really difficult. In Earthquake, it's a little more prevalent, but just not that many use cases. Sneak, I mean, it's just good. Just like Opportunity. I mean, no one's going to complain about that. You can set up these really great sneak attackers. It's good. Snipe, I'm calling it meh. I just don't use snipe. There's not a lot of snipe monsters that I really like, and like in blast rule sets it's really great, but I just don't use snipe that much. A lot of it because a lot of them is archery monsters, and I don't use archery that much. Strengthen is top of meh. I mean, getting yourself an extra health is obviously great. Yeah. Stun. This one, I was confused where I wanted to put this one. Because it's tough with the RNG. I don't like relying fully on RNG. But I'm going to put stun in good. Mainly because it stops heals. If you have a big healing monster that's really annoying and you can land 2 stuns, it completely changes the match and it lets you wipe out a healing monster you normally wouldn't be able to wipe out. So it's a good heal counter. But yeah, the RNG just puts it at bottom of good. Tank heal is top of good. Part of the reason is you have to plan around the front monster, and you know, if an opportunity comes and takes away your tank healer, you lose the heal, where, you know, I'd rather have a monster that's healing already, but it's still obviously amazing. So top of good. Taunt is elite. Yeah, I keep moving Having back, probably just because there's only one monster with it, so I don't have it, so I don't really use it, but I just know this ability's great. Taunt is one of my favorites. I think it's insanely underrated, specifically now with the backline monsters. If I know where you're going to attack, and you're going to be forced to attack there, there's so many ways I can set up my lineup to take advantage of that, and it's one of my more successful silver strategies, is utilizing taunt monsters. Thorns is meh, top of meh, probably. Again, it requires planning, and it can be combined with things like Amplify to make it really great. You have to just know melee is coming, or else it's doesn't do much for you. Trample is good. Probably like here. When you set it up great and it works well, it can literally win you an entire match in one turn. But a lot of things have to go right. But it's just so powerful when it does work that it belongs in good. Blind to me is Blind to me is top of underrated for the same reason of dodge. It's a little bit less of a chance of causing a miss, but it goes to the entire person's team. Right, where dodge is just one monster, this is the entire opposition. I think it's super underrated. It's borderline elite, but I'm going to keep it in underrated. Triage is good, top of good. Same reason for tank heal. It goes really well with taunt, but just if an opportunity monster, once taunt is done, this monster can be targeted. True Strike is bad. There's not a lot of monsters. It's good on the Gorgolodon, but I can't even really name True Strike monsters. I mean, Kitty has it, which makes it awesome when I can give everyone on my team True Strike. But True Strike is never going to be something where I'm like, okay, now I have to go get this. Void is elite, bottom of elite. Anything that counters magic, cutting magic in half is amazing. And magic to me is the easiest to predict that it's coming because people who play a lot of magic over and over and over again. Void armor, bottom of good. I like it less than the other magic counters, but it can be utilized with the repair, and again, it's magic, so it belongs here. Weaken is meh, same reason as strengthen. I mean, doing 6 damage is great right off the bat, right? 1 to each person, but if they're already at 1 health, it doesn't make a difference. Yeah, belongs there. Bloodlust is just good. I mean, until they release... so if I count... I'm not counting guild monsters. Because right now, just with the Grum, and I don't think they're going to put it in other monsters, with other monsters. It's just good. If we get some opportunity monster with Bloodlust, that'll change the game. But Camo is underrated. High up underrated, too. Having these powerful monsters like the Jin Bilka and Dr. Blight with Camo, I use them all the time. Cleanse is meh. It has its use cases that are really great, but that's it. And then close range is bad. I just don't use archery that much, and it's not something I'm going to play around with. All right, let's take a look at this. Kind of a normal distribution. I'm not surprised that I like more than I don't like. I expected a lot to be in the good and meh. Because in reality, this game, you have to combine a lot of the abilities together to get a ton of usefulness, which I think I thoroughly explained. Yeah, I mean, I hope you guys completely disagree with me and you guys, absolutely roast my ratings in the comments. Like, I want to hear, where do you think I'm completely off? Where do you agree with me? What were some of my worst takes? Let me know. I want this to be a fun video that we can discuss and argue and have some, playful conversation around. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. If you enjoyed it, it'd be awesome if you can like and subscribe. Maybe I'll start mixing in some more of this fun content if you guys like it. Hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.